Exactly 8:52 a.m. News and views on Salam Media, and a huge day tomorrow and Friday, not only for us as South Africans, not only for the Palestinians, but for the entire global community. We do know that, of course, the South African A team are lodging a case against Israel at the ICJ. And to talk more about it, what do we as lay people need to understand about this case being lodged tomorrow, and it will be heard tomorrow and Friday? We have Tasneem Fredericks. She is a lawyer and a Palestine activist based in the Eastern Cape. So let's try and unpack this situation and make some sense of the way forward. Assalamu alaikum to you, Tasneem. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum salam.
Okay, a
Shukran.
lot of lovely to have you here. A lot of the legal jargon will go over our heads. You, as a lawyer yourself, truly understand what is going on here. People are suggesting that it's just nothing much will come out of it. It might just be a show of solidarity, but that's where it would stop. My personal view is that the fact that this is being taken to the ICJ, people are also suggesting that it is an institution without any teeth, but we can look at that as well. I believe that it's putting this very grave issue of genocide into, putting it out on the world stage. And for people who didn't understand what it's about, can truly start coming to grips with what is going on and saying, stop, not in my name. So, where are we regarding the A team lawyers representing South Africa at the World Court against Israel?
I guess so. It's quite an extensive application. It's an 84-page application that South Africa filed at the International Court of Justice on 29 December 2023. In November already, South Africa had served on the embassy a document detailing, the events and asking that the state of Israel immediately cease with the conduct, with the, what is essentially a genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza. Now, the embassy did not formally respond, but Israel has been in the media where they publicly made utterances. Netanyahu on 26 December emphatically stated that the war was not going to stop, that they were just going to continue, and so I think it's important for people to understand that the application should have been brought a long time ago. South Africa and Israel are both member states to the Convention on Genocide. You'll remember that this is not the first attack. This is not the first massacre on Gaza. 2008, 2009, Operation Cast Lead saw, for a shorter period of time and lesser Palestinians, not to say that it was not enough to bring a similar case, but I think, this has just been kind of 7 October and the last, so for the last 3 months and 75 years, Israel has basically just exacted terror on Palestinians. And the importance of this application is that on, like I said, 29 December, South Africa accused Israel of committing genocide. And it maintains that the Israelis' actions since the war began are intended to bring about the destruction of a substantial part of the Palestinian national, racial, and ethnic group in the Gaza Strip. And these charges fit clearly under the definition of genocide in the Geneva Convention, to which I said, South Africa is a party and Israel is a party as well. And as member states, then there's an obligation not only on South Africa, but on all member states to ensure the prevention and the punishment of genocide. So just to go back to your statements on, the ICJ being toothless, I think it's important to note that just the bringing of the application is a victory. just the fact that we are where we are, waiting to hear the matter tomorrow and Friday, and that a week later, the rulings will be released or be made, is a victory for solidarity movements, because now it's finally an issue that has been brought to light, detailing both the 75-year occupation, but also acutely describing what Israel is doing in Gaza. So it's not a case of Israel being brought for a genocide that happened, in the past. Not only that, but it is an ongoing genocide. And specifically because this is an interim application, and specifically what South Africa is asking for as one of the measures is for an immediate ceasefire, for which we know the United Security Council, had a vote, and there were countries that opposed it, and the United Nations even, without any enforcement mechanisms, similarly had a vote, and there was an overwhelming response for the ceasefire to be immediate. And the application acutely describes, in a well-written and thoroughly comprehensive document details the horrors that the Israeli occupation forces are inflicting on the Palestinians since 7 October. And it explains further why there is more death and destruction in store for Palestinians. So this document details that, like I said, Netanyahu and his leaders, the Israeli leaders, are not going to stop. And then also, importantly, the application provides a substantial body of evidence showing the genocidal intent, by documenting, all the comments of Israeli leaders. And it's important to note that it's very shocking. And one is reminded of, how Nazis talked about dealing with Jews, when reading, the document on how Israelis are, dealing with Palestinians. The ICJ's rulings are final, so it would be binding to Israel as a member of the UN, and it's not subject to an appeal. However, like you mentioned, the ICJ has no direct way of enforcing its ruling. So if Israel follows its past behavior on legally binding rulings, it will probably not comply. But to aid enforcement of the ruling, the United Nations Security Council can take special measures to enforce it, obviously at the request of the accusing party, which is South Africa. And I mean, the court itself, it's a twofold application. So firstly, the ICJ will have to find or make the ruling that the conduct of Israel is in fact fits into the description of the definition of what a genocide is. And once they make that finding, which South Africa details in the application, they aver, and strongly so, they make the case that the conduct of Israel is and does fit within the description of genocide. And I mean, one can go into more detail about the appointment of the judges, that they serve a 9-year, role, and they may be all, United States citizens, so there's a bias implicit. But I think it's important to note that with any case, judges universally are, they will be diluting their own integrity if they find that, based on the paper submitted and based on the documented evidence, that this behavior, where children and women and innocent men, civilians, have been targeted specifically. I mean, this ethnic cleansing is a program that started in 1948 with the Nakba. We've surpassed the numbers in the Nakba, 1.9 million people alone. 85% of Gaza has been displaced. People were asked to evacuate to an area where they have no shelter, where they are basically being starved, where there are no immediate medical facilities, where people are still 7,000 people stuck under rubble. So one can imagine the kind of carnage and the unsanitary conditions that in itself creates. Today, as we speak. So it's just not a good situation. And it's a situation that Israel has, not been able to, through the propaganda machine, deny. It's going to be very difficult for them to deny these charges and blame Hamas for, they're not killing Hamas combatants only. I mean, the Department of the Ministry of Health is releasing the names of children, the names of women, the names of men that are civilians that have been killed. So, it's going to be very hard for Israel to deny these things. Obviously, they're going to do it. They've been publicly decrying this as a blood libel, reassessing their relationship with South Africa, calling it defamation and all kinds of ridiculous things, absurd things. So I think the likelihood, personally, that the court, there is no other logical conclusion that this ruling can reach, other than the crimes and the atrocities that Israel perpetuated and is continuously perpetuating does fall flat within the definition of genocide in terms of the convention. It then remains to be seen how and if Israel will comply, and if they don't comply, like I said, how does one then deal with the situation? Because the ICJ can also issue what is called an injunction, which is basically a judicial order that would legally restrain Israel from continuing its genocidal crimes, and then also compel them to follow the anticipated guilty verdict. And this would put a heavy moral and legal obligation on Israel. And I mean, if you look at the ICJ as a world court, and you look at countries that are member states that are willfully not complying, how is that going to bode with countries who do trades with Israel? So, I mean, I think for me, regardless of what Israel's conduct is going to be post the ruling, provided the ruling is positive, I have no doubt that it will be in favor of Palestinians. I think that they are going to face such a heavy kind of pressure from the international community, from companies. It's going to hit their pockets. Israel has no moral restraint in regards to Palestinians. Just last week, Netanyahu was shopping around to see what they call a transfer of Palestinians from Gaza to other countries in Africa for cash. So he was basically going to look at an exchange program where he places the displaced Palestinians and basically evicts them from their own land to other African countries. And those African countries get paid in cash. So one can see the intent of Israel in terms of how serious they are about emptying the whole of the Gaza Strip. I mean, this is not a joke. This is beyond urgent. The situation has been ongoing for 75 years. And it is, I mean, I'm proud as a South African citizen today to be a South African, simply because we were one of the very few nations. I mean, other nations came afterward and endorsed the application. But largely, the world has been protesting vehemently, but no country has actually taken the kind of action that South Africa has taken. And I think this is going to result in unilateral action by countries withdrawing, and we're going to be seeing, real teeth to the BDS campaign. We're going to be seeing companies withdrawing, hopefully countries boycotting and sanctioning, like they did South Africa after this case. They should be doing it. They should have been doing it since the 29th of December. Start withdrawing. And I mean, we've seen a global collapse of companies like Starbucks. We've seen companies being brought to their knees as a consequence of this collective international solidarity, that ordinary citizens, we saw huge protests, huge marches in places like the UK, one of the veto states. So it kind of makes governments redundant when the people who vote for them are saying the exact opposite of what they are doing. It means that they have no mandate. It means that they almost become redundant in a sense when they're not acting in accordance with what their citizens want, specifically in the case of the occupation of Palestine by Israelis for a very, very long time.
Okay,
So
Tasneem, can I come in there? My news anchor standing by with the news. Can I just get one question in here? And obviously, what do you believe? Israel's not going to sit back and just let this go ahead. They too, I have no doubt in my mind, put together a very strong legal team to respond to our case, the South African case against them. How do you see that playing out?
Look, I think it's important to note that, I mean, Israel has the resources, okay, and they have absolutely all the money in the world to get the best people. Incidentally, I think just yesterday, Israel dropped the guy, the lawyer, Alan Dershowitz, who was associated with Harvey Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein.
The
They've
pedophile case.
the pedophile Alan
Yeah,
Dershowitz, who
right,
won the
right.
documentary, he's no longer acting for Israel. So, I mean, I think that they're quite concerned. I think we have a very good team. At the end of the day, like I said, judges have an international standard. If this process is seen by the world to be rigged, they lose their integrity, they lose their standing. If it's seen by the international legal community that the judges have not acted on the specific case and evidence presented in the papers, then they will lose their own morality, their own kind of legacy, in a sense. And I think that, you know, our team and South Africa specifically, and we've been saying this for many, many years, South Africa is so well placed to be leading this charge as you know, having kind of gone through apartheid. We one of, you know, the best countries to be placed to be leading this charge, and I have no doubt that we have the best team. And I don't, you know, it doesn't really matter who Israel gets, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be about the person. The person needs to respond to these damning allegations. And to me, there's just no way that they'll be able to. So I think there's a very, very good chance. And inshallah, we make dua that
I mean,
um, Palestine is going to be successful. South Africa is successful, and Palestine is venerated, you know, and they are basically confirmed. Their suffering is confirmed, and that it was really not in vain, which it can't possibly be.
inshallah. Note, I did want you to talk to me about our A team, but we've run out of time. Undoubtedly, Inayat Wadi will pick up
Brilliant,
on that.
fantastic.
I
Sorry,
did
no
want to go into, I wanted to go in much more detail, but I think Inayat Wadi will cover that tonight or possibly tomorrow. But thank you indeed for your insights. Lovely to hear what you had to say. Bo Mohammed, thank you indeed for your comments this morning on the show as well. Tasneem, we will be talking again sometime in the future. This is something that I think not only South Africa, but the rest of the world will be focused on tomorrow and Friday, and I should imagine beyond as well, and rightly so. So, till the next time, as always, Salaam alaikum to you.
problem.
That was Tasneem Fredericks. She is an activist, and of course, she's also a lawyer, talking to us about this application by South Africa to the ICJ against Israel for their crimes of genocide against the Palestinian people. Standing by at 10 after 9 exactly is our correspondent, news correspondent, Sai Jadwit.